Oh, yeah, yes. Let me do a roll call. Then I hand over the host to James.
Okay.
Captain Williams Brown.
Here, present.
Jose Cardenas.
Present.
C. Michael Cooney.
Here.
Michael Dilatorre.
Present.
Marisol Dilatorre Escobedo.
Here.
Anna Marie Francois.
Present.
Makita Gwynno Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross.
Present.
Johanna Harwick.
Present.
Susan Aredia.
Present.
Terry Jackson.
Here.
Bonnie Clapp.
Present.
Jim Marks. Cynthia Martin. Monica Martinez. David Simmons. Tina Sloan.
Here.
Andrew Wall.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Haiju. Mary, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Please stand. The flag is at the back of the picture on your microphone, but salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, staff, for figuring out our technical problems. It was reminding me of probably last fall over the holidays. I was trying to have a Zoom call with my children who are in various parts of the US and the world. And my daughter gets on and can't hear her. And so she eventually can't figure out the technology. She scoots off to come back on. My other daughter comes on. I can't hear her either. And then another one comes on. They can hear each other, but I can't hear them. Obviously, the issue was on my side. And when I fixed it, the first thing my one daughter says is, "Mom, please don't tell me you're one of those professors." I am. So with that, wishing for smoother waters over the next 3 days with our technology. And we are going to move now to item 2A, which is the strategic planning session. Amy Rising and Mary Sandy and I will be working on this item together. Amy will be facilitating our work throughout this session today, with Mary and I chiming in at moments. Before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge that we have several new commissioners in the room, and I will give them all a due welcome tomorrow and tell you a bit more about them. Naturally, when we go into our small sessions today, we should all be sure to introduce ourselves and get to know one another. Our work today is going to follow on the work that we started back in December, and we're going to, I think, have a very interesting and exciting day planned for you all. So, James, would you switch to the next slide, please? You.
Madam Chair.
So I'm just going to outline briefly. Here's what we're proposing to do today. We're going to review our vision, mission, and values work, and we're going to be in small groups. We're going to propose things that we might wish to see differently in those. This is not a day for wordsmithing. This is a day for getting ideas on the table. Commissioners and staff are going to be working together like we did before. Our commission staff is also going to be recording the things that we are saying. They're going to take our ideas and come back, put them into words. They'll do some wordsmithing and come back to us with that. So remember that today is Idea Day. We need to get important words in, but we're not wordsmithing. We're also going to look at and revisit our strategic goals and objectives, do the same thing there. If we can, we're going to identify priorities for the next 3 years and then 5 years. And we're also going to identify topics for study sessions that we sometimes have in the commission that help us learn more about the work that we want to learn about. So with that, I would like to then turn it over to Amy Rising.
Thank you, Tina.
Next slide.
I just want to take a second and go through our agenda with everyone so that we understand how the next 3 hours will unfold. We will move past this introduction and welcome into a few norms for how we will work together in this online Zoom meeting. We will then talk about our strategic planning outcomes, which we just went over, and then set that stage for strategic planning. We'll have 2 breakout discussion opportunities today, and commission staff will be with you in the 3 breakout rooms to help facilitate those conversations as well as take notes for you. We will ask you, commissioners, to choose one of yourselves to come back and then share the thinking from the group in a whole group debrief. When we move through our 2 opportunities to talk together, we'll then turn it to public comment. The public will be joining us and we'll have the opportunity at 11:45 to add their thoughts to today's discussion. And then we will end with closing comments and next steps and adjourn right at the top of the hour at noon. Next slide, please. I would like to invite the public to please email their request to comments@ctc.ca.gov or call 916-322-6253 and indicate that you'd like to speak on this set of discussions on this item this morning. Please make sure your request includes your full name, phone number, if participating through the phone, and your affiliation. And please make sure the name you provide matches the name used to join the meeting this morning. I'm going to turn it back to James, our producer today, who will walk you quickly through our online meeting norms. James?
Thank you, Amy. Yes, we have a few norms that we would like to go over with you just so that it maximizes our work for today. The first one is, please make sure that if you would like to be recognized that you unmute yourself. But otherwise, please remain muted so that we reduce the background noise for the meeting. The other thing we would like for you to do is to keep your video enabled if possible. We understand sometimes that bandwidth issues may arise. So if you do need to turn your video off because your connection is unstable, we do understand that, but otherwise, please remain on. We do ask that you avoid multitasking during the webinar just so that we can ensure that we have the full participation of everyone and that we are attuned to the focus that we have today. 3 hours may seem like a lot of time. However, we know that when we get into discussions, it really goes very quickly. We do want to make sure that we honor the time for both participants and presenters. So please monitor your comments and questions. If a comment or question has been shared already, there will be other ways that you might be able to share your own ideas, and we don't want to keep repeating the same idea over and over again so that we can maximize the time together. And finally, some of you may have read the report that came out from Stanford University a couple of months ago about Zoom fatigue. It is a real thing. Please give your eyes a break from time to time so that you will be able to maximize all of your effort and energy into this meeting. The next item that I would like to share with you is an interactive whiteboard that we are going to utilize today for commissioners to add ideas for future study sessions. And we're going to utilize a technique called Jamboard that is in the Google Suite for Education. We are going to email the link to the commissioners so that you will be able to display your ideas. And a Jamboard, if you've not yet used it, is a fascinating tool that teachers and students and other individuals have used. And essentially what you do is you use you create a sticky note or like a Post-it, a virtual Post-it, And you then put that idea onto the Jamboard that allows you to have your idea recognized. So the large blue arrow is pointing to the sticky note. And then once that occurs, you will get a box that looks like this. You can choose the color you would like. You have yellow, green, blue, pink, orange, or you do have a option of a transparent item. And you write your idea or your suggestion, and then you click save. And then your idea will appear on the Jamboard. And then commission staff, once the strategic planning session is over, will go around and sort the Post-it notes so that it will inform future meetings. So again, if any of you have a question, you can send me a quick note, but otherwise, this is how we will keep our ideas going, and I will remind you throughout the meeting to please put your ideas on the Jamboard. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy and let her set the stage for where we are.
Thank you, James. We always think it's important to go back and make sure that we know where we have come from to be together at this point in time today. So back in January of 2014, the Commission adopted the current strategic plan that we have been talking together about now throughout the past several months. In January of 2020, priorities were stated that included updating the strategic plan. And so here we are moving forward in time to the spring of 2020, when the Commission conducted an environmental scan to identify key issues and trends for Commission work. In the summer of 2020, then we moved on and surveyed stakeholders. We did have 82 external surveys received through that process. In October of 2020, just a few months ago, we presented a high-level summary of the external survey results to you. And then in December, we had our first opportunity together through a Zoom call like today to discuss strategic planning. And then here we are in 2021. And in February, all of you that were with us at that meeting heard Dr. Sandy present priorities for 2021. We will revisit those as well in our small group debrief. And I will turn it back to you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Amy and James. Good morning, commissioners and members of the public who are with us. I'm going to do a fairly quick review of the Commission's mandate and the high-level review of our strategic plan as it currently exists. So by Commission's mandate, what I'm referring to are the things that the legislature has placed in statute that guide our work. There's a list here on this slide. Our mandate includes licensing educators, setting standards for preparation programs, accrediting preparation sponsors, managing, developing, and utilizing examinations and assessments, performance assessments in particular, addressing educator misconduct, managing and implementing teacher recruitment and development grants, ensuring that we have good public information and access for the public to the work of the Commission, engaging our stakeholders in the work that we do, and of course managing the agency in a way that maintains effective operations. The Gantt chart there, or that's not a Gantt chart, that's a Venn diagram, captures the three big buckets of this work. Program quality has to do with standards and accreditation. Educator quality has to do with our examinations and assessments, and licensure has to do with our certification and discipline work, just as a graphic reminder of how our work is organized. So the current strategic plan that has been in place since 2012, updated in 2014, includes a vision, mission, set of values, and then 4 broad multi-year goals with objectives underneath them. And I'm just going to quickly review them. The vision that the Commission set for the agency in 2012 was that all of California students, preschool through grade 12, are inspired and prepared to achieve their highest potential by well-prepared and exceptionally qualified educators. We use that as kind of the target of our work and make sure this is our true north. Are we always in the work that we do headed toward advancing this vision? The mission then gets to specifically what is our opportunity? How does the commission contribute to this, achieving this vision? We do that by ensuring integrity, relevance, and high quality in the preparation, certification, and discipline of the educators who serve all of California's diverse students. We utilize these two statements when we are introducing ourselves to anyone in any context. These are our identity statements, if you will, about where we're headed, what's our true north, and what is our mission in achieving that. The values then of the commission really that have been adopted reflect kind of our expression of how we get the work done. We recognize and promote excellence in preparation and practice of the workforce. We value and promote equity, quality, inclusiveness, and diversity in standards, programs, practices, people, and the workforce. We're dedicated and committed to the education and welfare of California's diverse students. We value the voices, ideas, and understanding of educators, parents, students, our partners, stakeholders, and employees. We embrace the spirit of innovation that enables us to transform our vision into reality. In talking about this with Chair Sloan yesterday, she asked me a good penetrating question, which is one of her true gifts, and that is, how do we use these things? And the truth is, these are touchstones for us. This is kind of a compass for us. When we bring policy considerations before the commission, we ask ourselves, does this proposed policy promote excellence in the preparation and practice of our workforce? Or is it focused more on expediency or something other than excellence? Because we know that promoting excellence is a key value of this organization. Are we promoting equity, inclusiveness, diversity? This is another key lens through which we examine our work as we bring it to the commission. And as you engage in your deliberations, these are values that you bring to the evaluation and determination of policy. Innovation is a key part of what we do, and we're looking for innovative solutions to the problems that exist in our system. And so that's how we use these values, as kind of a compass and a way of evaluating our work as we bring it forward to you. So those three sets of things are part of your first breakout session: the vision, mission, and values. And your opportunity really is to examine those in small groups and identify what's missing and how these might need to be amended or updated. The multi-year goals will be the subject of your second breakout session, and these are aligned pretty tightly to our mandate. So goal area 1 has to do with educator quality and addresses our work with examinations, performance assessments, credentialing, and discipline. Goal area 2 has to do with program quality and accountability. And this has to do with your standards, your accreditation system, how we engage with our stakeholders, how we report on data and trend and provide analyses of these things for the public. The third goal area is communication and engagement, which speaks to transparency, access, engaging in public discourse, engaging with our stakeholders, and working with other agencies in collaboration as we advance our vision, mission, and goals. And then the final goal area has to do with operational effectiveness. And this is how we align our human and fiscal resources to meet the Commission's goals and objectives, how we maintain an effective and positive workplace, how we maintain efficiency in our workload management, and how we focus on continuous improvement. So this is how the Commission organized its goals, multi-year goals, in 2012 and 2014. It is what is. It doesn't have to be what comes next. And this is where you'll have an opportunity in your second breakout session to determine whether this is the way to continue to organize your strategic plan or not. These goals capture what are our mandated activities, but you have some opportunity to think this through and give us your ideas about how to update this in the future. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Amy, who will set us up for our first breakout group discussion.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, so on your screen, everyone, you can see a few directions here. Our first opportunity together this morning is to truly focus ourselves on our current vision, mission, and values. Mary just reviewed those with you, but you also have these explained again in the Commission item itself. So there is a few materials that we will have you access, and that is the strategic plan in the agenda item that you received, and particularly looking at pages 2 and 3. And then also stakeholder perspectives on the commission's mission, which you can also find in that same one document, the agenda item, and that would be found on page 5. So when we get into our rooms, James is going to send us off into breakout discussion rooms. So we'll have 3 separate rooms, and we will have 2 particular questions that we're going to think about. So if you would just flip back, James, for 1 second. So what we want to think about in our breakout discussions as we think and talk together, we want to kind of at a point in the discussion come back to these 2 questions, and a note taker in the room will gather your thoughts for you, and then the presenter will have those notes to refer to when they offer the 3 highlights from the discussion to the rest of the group. So the first question is looking at how well do the current mission, vision, and values reflect the Commission's perspective on the agency's role and work? And our second question is, what, if anything, is missing or no longer current? So we will have about half an hour together to gather our thoughts on looking at our current vision, mission, and values. And when we get into our breakout rooms, your facilitators will remind you of the questions and help guide the discussion. So James, if you are ready, would you please go ahead and put us all into our breakout rooms? There they are.
Yeah. Yes, just to time check, do you want 30 minutes or should we do 25 since we had a little bit of a later start? I just want to make sure I have the correct time.
Let's go ahead and
give the full 30. Yeah.
Full 30? Okay, sounds good. When you are in your breakout rooms, there will be a timer and you will have 60 seconds to then move back into the main room. I will open the rooms, and for those of you from the viewing public, I will be putting you into rooms as well. So please sit tight and everyone will be assigned. I'm going to open the rooms now.
Welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you all back in the full meeting space. And we hope you had a good opportunity to discuss our vision, mission, and values. We're going to go ahead and start with a debrief here of our thinking. Erin Scoopel will be kind enough to, on our group note-taking document, to capture a few thoughts on what's being shared. Group 1 will go first, and Commissioner Klatt has been kind enough to be willing to share some highlights from our conversation. And we will attempt to focus ourselves on these 2 questions. How well do the current mission, vision, and values reflect the Commission's perspective on the agency's role and work? And what, if anything, is missing or no longer current? So Commissioner Klatt, if you are ready, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you would unmute and share a few highlights, we can pull up the notes, James, and then also Erin will take a few additional notes from our breakout discussion.
All right, good morning. So I'm kind of stalling for the notes, but
here we go.
Here we go. So in our group, we looked at the 3 and recognized that perhaps the mission statement seemed to focus on educators. And if you can scroll down just a little bit more, thank you. The mission focused on teachers, and perhaps there might be some things we could add to include opportunities for teachers in career ladders. Also, I think really an important thing that came up in our group was access to the profession and really making, ensuring that a diverse population has access and can. I'm stumbling here. It's early in the mornings. Tina, maybe picked the wrong person to present here.
But I'm going to great.
Power on. All right. That we have the equity lens when we're thinking about making the teaching profession open to a wide group of people. And so I think that was the main thing we talked about in that area. So if we can scroll down to to vision. So we recognize that the vision focused more on students. So we had the educators coming up first and then the students. There was discussion about adding something to ensure focus on children's health, safety, and well-being, thinking about the whole child. There was a lot of discussion in our group too about the continuum, including pre-K, early childhood, preschool, and making sure that we're not leaving them out. Particularly, I think it came up, Commissioner Brown brought up issues of permits and certification there. And so then when we went down to values, we talked about, kind of looking back through the lens again, we talked about the term value the voices of our stakeholders, and thinking, is there a verb there we could use to talk more about the fact that we do more than just value them, but that we act on them. Also, the need to include the fact that our work is based in research and data, as well as the voices of our stakeholders. And we talked about the term discipline and kind of looking at kind of throughout that, going back to the area above, that the term discipline might not be the term we want to use, but making sure that our focus on ongoing conduct, whether it's through the career ladder, but that we're not just preparing teachers and then setting them loose and saying, okay, you're good, but that our work also focuses on the ongoing support and conduct of teachers. And perhaps discipline, there might be a different word that we could use there. And I apologize for my scattered reporting there. I don't know if there's anyone from my group who wants to add anything important there I missed.
Anyone want to add to Bonnie's presentation from Group A? All right, we're going to go ahead then and move to Group B. And if you would either sort of agree with what has been said and then add your new thoughts, that would be great. And who will be presenting from Group B?
I will, Amy. So
thank you, Commissioner Hartwig.
Thanks, Bonnie. You previewed a number of the things that we also discussed. Mine is not going to go quite in the same vision mission because we jumped around a little bit more, but we definitely focused from the start of our discussion on wanting to elevate and make explicit the goal of the commission of having a diverse workforce that represents the student body of our incredibly diverse state. And so wanting to make that explicit within the vision and mission. One theme that kept coming up throughout our discussion was the idea of how do we help educators empower students, and that empowerment took a number of different, we discussed a number of different ways in which we really want to help educators empower students, from helping students become resilient in the face of the crises that unfortunately we know will probably be coming down the line, given how many we've been experiencing in recent years, the pandemic just being the most widespread of them, I guess. Empowering students to, I'm going to take a phrase from our new Commissioner Cardenas, which I liked a lot, which was community readiness, being ready to participate in the community. And I had also mentioned being ready to really participate in the politics of this country and being informed. So that arose in multiple different ways. How do we really, I guess, amp up our focus on empowering students to be able to be successful, healthy, and so on. Another theme that we talked about a number of times was partnership, and how can we capture and express the importance of partnerships to the commission and the effective functioning of the commission. So that could be partnerships in terms of with particular bodies or organizations, like with the state board. Is there a way that we could both emphasize and amplify that partnership? And then also a way to recognize the ongoing I'm going to use partnership writ broad that we have with the educator community in terms of constantly drawing upon the input, volunteer service, et cetera, of educators of all sorts to move our work forward through task forces, through committees, et cetera, et cetera. And so making sure that we somehow capture and express that that's essential and integral to our effective functioning as an organization. Another idea that came up was, and this I think was something that I remember hearing a lot in December, was how to capture and portray our thought leadership and our innovative leadership. So Commissioner Wall put it as, do we want to think about being able to present that in addition to those 3 core overlapping areas that we are in charge of, we also are looked to and really act as real leaders in the educational space, and that I would say I think that's very important for us to own, because it's actually an important part of our work, and it is something that others can look to us for. So there were other great ideas as well, but I think I will leave it to the next group to move on, unless anybody from my group has something in particular that I left out. Thanks.
Would anyone like to add? All right, well, thank you for sharing that set of ideas. Really adds to the conversation, and that will bring us to our third group, Group C. Who would like to present, please? Please start and add just the new ideas, please.
I think that's me, Amy. I want to thank my group and thank especially Angel for capturing these incredible ideas. And what the previous 2 groups said, we had a couple, but I just want to emphasize that we're talking about early childhood all the way through age 22. When we think about all students, I'm going to come back to that idea of all students. And so we talked about, even though early childhood, we're talking about early childhood right now, we want to be really aspirational in this work and make sure that we're including the little ones. So that was under vision. The other comment under vision, reflecting on lessons learned this past year with the multiple pandemics, that we continue our focus on social justice and equity, and that those commitments, those core values begin at the vision mission level and then are woven throughout all the way through the strategic plan. Again, reflecting on what's happened this past year, we want to make sure that we have a very strong and focused social emotional learning perspective. This is beyond academics. This is both social and academics. Going to mission, thinking about our pipeline work and making sure we have an explicit focus on who's in the pipeline, how are we retaining them, how are we growing them as teachers and leaders. And then I'm going to call out Anna Marie for having us think about the order of our mission of integrity, relevance, and high quality. I want to echo her challenge that we rethink that order, because that really speaks to the importance of our mission. Going to values, an explicit focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion that has to be throughout. An explicit focus on the whole educator, the knowledge, skills, and most importantly, again, the dispositions our educators bring. And then back to all students. Are we preparing educators, teachers, counselors, leaders to be able to recognize the assets, the cultural capital that all students bring? So each and every learner. Okay, group, what did I leave out?
Anyone like to jump in and add Commissioner Grenelshire's presentation? Outstanding. All right. And Erin, thank you for capturing some thoughts along the way there. Just a reminder to all that we will, as staff, take all of your discussion points and your thinking and your ideas that you have offered this morning and work with them a bit more and bring them back to you again as we brought ideas to you from the December discussion. And thank you to all of you for staying with us and being engaged in these conversations. And thank you to those who agreed to present. We're going to go ahead now and move into our next opportunity to continue our discussions. We will stay in the same groups and follow a similar process of reviewing some of the language that is in our documents and then having a discussion. So specifically, as you can see on your screen, we will have this time 3 documents. So we will start each session with giving you 12 to 15 minutes to take a look at these statements and these ideas that are already kind of down on paper. So the first is our goal statements. So moving then from our vision, mission, and values into our goal statements and taking a look at those, which are part of our mandate. And then looking at Appendix B that comes directly from your work in December. We'll take 3 to 4 minutes there, and then a few more minutes on the 2021 priorities that Dr. Sandy presented at the prior meeting in February of what the priorities will be for commission staff in 2021. And then we'll think across those 3 documents and move into our group discussion. And again, coming back to these same questions, what might we update or add, bring to the forefront in our work as we move into 2021 and beyond? And then our second question, what are the most pressing long-term priorities the commission would like to address in the next 3 to 5 years? So sort of what will we really focus on in this next year, and then 3 to 5 years out, what do we want to set as priorities? And so we will go ahead and move into those discussions. We also invite you, we do know we have been on Zoom together for quite a bit of time already this morning. We invite you to take a break during this time in this next section. And then again, if one of you would also agree to be the presenter. And so James, would you like to go ahead and move us back into our groups?
I would, but may I just remind our participants that when we are taking the break, please simply mute yourself and turn your camera off. Please avoid leaving the Zoom meeting because it will disrupt some of the breakout rooms. And so it's just a cleaner break time if you simply mute yourself and turn off your camera.
That is a great reminder. Thank you, James. And James, just we know that we need public comment at 11:45, so we will be coming back before that so we can have our group debrief, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So do you want to give us an estimate on when you will be pulling us back in so we don't just all of a sudden disappear from each other?
Sure. We would be able to come back in 50 minutes, 50. And so that would allow us enough time for a group debrief and then time for public comments. Dr. Sandy, does that, and Commissioner Sloan, are you okay with 50 minutes for this second part of the conversation?
I would recommend we check in 45 minutes because there's more material to look at here. If we need to, if the groups need a little more time to surface the issues that they need to surface, we can go up to an hour if we need to and still be fairly close. We'll squeeze something, and it's probably the debrief portion of this, but let's just check in 45. And I just wanted to take a minute to remind commissioners that there was an agenda insert posted today, which took Appendix B and expanded it a little bit, broke it down a little bit and provided some additional information. So that's the document that you'll be referring to during this breakout session.
All right, very good.
With that, I will open the rooms, and if we need to add more time, that is certainly a step that we can take. So I will open rooms, and you may begin.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. And just a shout out to Group A. If one of you can determine who would like to present for us, that would be great. And what we'll do is we'll go backwards. We'll start with Group C first this time to make sure that they have an opportunity to share all of their thinking. And then each group that comes in behind will add new thoughts. And we have about 15 minutes together to share the high level thinking. And again, thank you to the note takers and thank you to all of you for being engaged and sharing your ideas with us. So let's go ahead and start with Group C. Who will present for Group C?
Is Group C the same as 3? Is that us, Michelle?
Yeah, or 3. Yeah.
So just really quickly, Michelle tried to convince me to do this when I was voluntold by saying, well, Group 3 will go last. And I've been in enough of these Zoom meetings to know that Group 3 was going to go first. So
well, see, you're on.
She's prepared. She's well prepared.
I was well prepared,
Your group will help you. I know they will.
All right, we had some time for some clarification since Michelle knew we were going to go first too. So I think the first and maybe perhaps the most important thing we want to talk about as an umbrella that we see with our goals are ones for 2021, but going forward is the need for the Commission to really define a role for advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion as our framework for all we do. And I'm sure that this issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion has come up with everyone, and that we know it has to be embedded in everything that we do. And maybe we need to unpack what that really means for the Commission and for the teacher credentialing and development process. So that would be our large umbrella for all that we say and do. And within that, how do we use data more impactfully? Data continued to come up at different times. It could be using it as evidence for some of the work that's happening. It could be, for some of the performance assessment work. Was it showing about teachers who use performance assessment and advancing through their career, to even using the accreditation system more effectively or more often as we look at our institutions. And again, I'm sure this has come up, but what is our role in supporting a high need for representation and diversity and high priority areas such as maybe single subject around STEM, special education, ELL teachers. And with that, therefore, how do we provide multiple pathways into the field? We use the paraprofessional grant programs, residencies, other things as different pathways. How do we do that to ensure high need for representation and diversity and to address high priority areas? And similar to data, but a bit different because it would be outside of our data, but how do we ground our work in evidence-based, research-based on multiple levels? Again, when it comes to how we are assessing our students, when it comes to effective practices around credentialing, around teacher preparation, how are we looking at research and evidence to support this? And again, I call these buckets, and then we're like, they're not really buckets because they're general themes that need to be integrated, but how do we expand and advance the profession in all that we do, whether that's around operations, whether that's around credentialing and discipline, communications, how do we advance the profession at large? And I feel like one that I may have missed that could have been in here was supporting the pipeline or supporting the entire teacher continuum from teacher prep through induction, early career. So that was a lot. There you go. Group, what did I miss or mess up?
No messing up. We're all friends. Anyone want to add to Monica's presentation?
I think Monica did an amazing job, which is why she was voluntold on behalf of our group.
Anna Marie and I, we had a little arm wrestling over Zoom.
Okay.
But I do want to add, more specific to adult learning theory, that it's important that we understand the theoretical frameworks that guide our work. And if we're going to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion, then there's theoretical frameworks that embody that, and we need to be clear about that as we define equity, diversity, inclusion, and all the manifestations of it through the work that we do for the next 3 to 5 years.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else from Group 3, Group C?
Can I just jump in to say, I feel like we had mentioned that we could also suggest study session, things that we'd like to have study sessions on.
Yes.
And what Anna Marie was just saying about learning about the frameworks that encompass and explore diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's something I would love to learn more about through a study session.
Be a great thing to include on the Jamboard.
Yeah, that would be great. And I just put a little reminder to all of you to go over to that link and create a sticky note. And we will certainly make a note in the chat as well. But if you're feeling brave, you could go click on that link and just pick your favorite color and put your note there and put it on our Jamboard. James just checked it and noticed that maybe we have a little room for a few additional ideas there.
We have 2 now.
Oh, yay. Good job, everybody. You'll be thinking of more as people present these very thorough presentations of their discussion. So thank you. If it pops into your head, like Commissioner Hartwick just shared with us, please go put your idea on the board, and we'll pause and give you a couple of minutes as well to add additional thoughts. And of course, you know how to find all of us, and we're always open to hear your ideas anyway, even if we don't get to hear them this morning. So let's go ahead and move on to Group 2 or Group B. If you all would go ahead and present your work, who will be our presenter?
I agreed to be the presenter.
Thank you,
but
Andrew.
I'm going to invite anyone else from the group to join after I share some of these things. And I was trying to pay attention to what was said so that I build on that. Certainly diversity, equity, and inclusion was a theme that we also had. This included diversifying and ensuring the teacher workforce pipeline, removing obstacles that might exist. And we've talked about those in terms of testing, and those are listed in the work plan, but also special education and other broad shortage areas were talked about in our group. So that was a big area. Second, communication was a really big discussion area, and working with different constituencies, building goodwill and trust through different areas to keep that as a priority. And also to share and amplify what we're learning in terms of the work we're doing in grants and in other activities, their best practices, good programs across the field was specifically talked about in terms of communication. Third, we talked about a lot about social emotional aspects of learning for educators, and not just teachers, but the broad array of people working in education and creating school environments. And this included the idea of what kind of school culture should we create in relationship to the trauma that so many people are experiencing and bringing with them to school. This also included the discussion of how we're supporting early career teachers and other educators. So as they, how do we intentionally help and support them as they move along? There are several great comments about that. And a really good comment about what are core practices for teachers and building those core practices and a culture that can be built upon. We also talked about the staff and investing in operational effectiveness and ensuring that we keep abreast of new data developments and advancing the capabilities of the staff itself, and also making sure that we invest in care and the CTC staff were asked to do so much. And there were many other good things said. So I invite my colleagues to add things, but I was trying to capture the essence of some of our conversation.
Anyone else like to jump in and support Andrew's presentation? Any other thoughts from your group? Give you a few seconds to think.
Great summary, thank you.
All right, David. Group B with our new colleague, David. So happy to have him with us. And let's move on to Group A1. And I know one of our commissioners and our group will step forward here and give us the highlights from our discussion.
Really? You're going to make me do it?
I'm going to say, who's feeling so brave this morning that they're going to do this?
But actually, going last, honestly, the other two groups capture so much important work and things that we had already said. It's hard for me to know what else to add. So group, jump in. But a couple of things that we did talk about. One, again, we spent a lot of time talking about the educator's professional trajectory and thinking about ways that we might support and develop this span of an educator's work. I know Monica mentioned that earlier as well. And both induction, but even beyond, in terms of supporting mentors in the work, both providing opportunities in terms of our standards and requirements like we currently do, but re-examining those and ensuring that we are promoting the right kinds of things, but also perhaps providing some sort of recognition, whether that's micro-credentialing, that might not be the right term, but for additional expertise that educators develop across their career. Another thing we talked about was the use of our assessments and thinking about it in terms of an assessment system, and that within that assessment system we provide multiple pathways and opportunities for educators to demonstrate competence in practice, and that we are ensuring that we are using assessments for appropriate purposes. The final thing I'll say around this is we talked a bit about the operational effectiveness goal, in particularly with the process for monitoring educator conduct, and a wish for examining this process and ensuring that it is the best that it can be, and that it meets the needs of all of us who are doing this work, because it is a very big part of our mandate. So others in my group, would you please jump in with anything that I have missed?
You don't miss much, Tina. I would just underscore that we did that discussion around, we've talked about access and success as being key to have, this focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in this discussion, we looked beyond to what we might call sustainability. And that was that became more of our focus for this part of the goals discussion.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. One thing I would like us as a whole group maybe to return to for a minute or two here, we have a few extra minutes, is our second question here about prioritizing issues for 3 and 5 years out. And I was wondering if anyone wanted to unmute and just add some thoughts there. Did this come up in your groups, and were there anything in particular that we want to make sure we get into our notes in this discussion opportunity today that would help us understand how to prioritize some of these very key and important aspects of work that the Commission enacts that you've all had a chance to discuss today? Anything coming to the tops of your mind that are absolute priorities for us?
I just wanted to add, Commissioner Hartwig mentioned in our group the importance of just communication with our stakeholders and really building that trust, building the trust long-term for the next, not just 3 to 5 years, but even further than that. And that's going to really take us having that constant communication.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas, for adding that. Go ahead, jump in.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just might, it's come up several times, but the issue of diversity, equity, inclusion, and early childhood, early learning, and early care. So I've heard that throughout the morning.
And I would add that we continue to hear not just the whole child, but the whole educator as well. And we continue to talk about knowledge, skills, and dispositions, defining those, explicating them, and measuring them.
Anyone else?
I'd like to add that the communication also be two-way, so that it's not just coming down from the CTC to districts and teachers, but also coming back up, so that we're responsive to districts and educators and all stakeholders.
We talked about that quite a bit in our group, the importance of two-way conversation, really as a state agency, listening carefully to what it's really like with our teachers and those who support our students in our school buildings and in our spaces for learning, all of our different settings now that we've learned about this year in COVID, our online learning, our in-person learning, our hybrid learning, our supportive families.
What we didn't talk about today, and I don't know if it goes into a goal or not, but we do incredibly important work, and a lot of other state agencies don't understand. And I don't want to sound whiny, but we don't have the kind of, right now with this governor, we need to, do that wedge, because what we've been talking about, including teacher conduct, takes time, people, and money. And if it isn't a priority financially, will overburden the agency. So I don't want to sound whiny, but I think there might somewhere in here, it's like, I want a better marketing, because the legislature, I'm just looking at the legislation that's in front of the Academic Senate of Community Colleges right now to take a look at that legislation. And that's a place where the legislators are the ones that get to decide how much resources we have to do what. So somewhere in here, and maybe it's beyond the scope of this session, but in being strategic, we need to think about who needs to know what we do, and puts us at the top of their list when we're not with them.
Communication. How about anyone else?
I'm going to share a comment that I made, super well-intentioned comment, that, in reading through all the materials today, even though it's really well organized, it's overwhelming. And the ability to understand what is the priority in that context is hard. And I can go back and see that there are clear goal areas and it's clearly organized, but it led me to make the comment that I think one of the things we could, do in terms of the communication is to actually say, okay, here are the 4, 5, 6, 7 priorities. And if there's separate working documents that outline the tasks associated with that those might need a different audience than the communication document with the core priorities. Because I think that, if we really distill down and say, well, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a core goal, and there's communications is a core, sounds to me like a core goal, and the social emotional component, but then all the details with them, I think sometimes obfuscate the underlying, here's what it is, and that's just purely process. But I do think it matters because it took a lot to sort of sift through all of this, and that detail is great operationally, but I'm not sure it communicates as well.
I think that's a great comment, Andrew. And one thing that I'm thinking about as I'm listening to all of you as well, in terms of right now we have things figured as vision, mission, values, goals. Values, we may want to, maybe it's a different word that we need there for what they are. They are things that we value, but they're action oriented. We're not just valuing them, we're enacting them. And whatever they are, I think they should be that guiding framework, and the things that we are always looking at should be there. Our understandings and our enactment of diversity and equity and inclusion should be one thing that is there, that's always guiding our work. And whatever other things that we've talked about today is there guiding our work. But the other thing I'm thinking about that might be there is how much we have learned over this past year that has opened our eyes and our hearts to things that we may not have been able to see as well before. And that is the care with which we need to engage in educating children. And we talked about early child infants through age 22, the care with which we need to support and prepare our educators. And I also want to emphasize that I hear the word teachers a lot in our conversation, but the Commission works with all educators and service professionals, service personnel, and counselors. That is our work, and we have to ensure that we are including all of those professions in our work. And the last thing I would say on this is we have an opportunity. Everybody in the world of education right now is rethinking how we want to educate as we come back. I'm always coming back to Gloria Ladson-Billings' talk last summer, where she said many times, rather than, we know we're not going to go back to the way it was before, business as usual. But we may even think about, rather than tweaks here and there are certain ways in which we need to do a hard reset and rethink what we're doing and ensure that we're building on the things that we have learned. So this element of innovation and mutual responsibility for the preparation and support of educators, that the CTC cannot do this work well alone. I think we are moving into a way in which we can figure out how we can better support the mutual responsibility amongst higher education, LEAs, state agencies, teachers, administrators, counselors, stakeholders for this work.
Absolutely. We have a few more minutes. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak yet, I'd love to hear your voice.
I really appreciate Commissioner Sloan's clarification of what documents are valued. And I think what's really helpful to me is operationalizing value guiding principles that every single part of it. Am I first? Some of their head. Anyway. So as we innovate, as we respond to pervasive challenges in educative preparation, that we have this North Star, this set of guiding principles that we say, you know what, if it doesn't meet one of these principles, we ought not be doing it.
Anna Marie, you were a little garbled, but I think you said we needed a North Star and we needed to follow our principles. And if we were not finding that our work lined up with our principles, then maybe we shouldn't be doing it. Did I capture what you said correctly?
I think we may have just lost her.
Yes, Amy, I think she was kicked off, but
okay,
hopefully, she'll be back on.
Hopefully
yes.
she will come back. But I tried to just reiterate the little bit at the end there that I heard.
I added it to the jam board.
Thank you, Anna Marie.
Backup plan.
Yes. Thank you. That's so good.
Well, that might be a good segue unless, just again, one more opportunity. Any last voices want to jump in for today? Please know that we will continue to have these discussions with you. This is not your last opportunity. We are very much eager to hear more from you. And if you think of something, just always please feel free to get in touch with any of us, and we will add your thinking to our notes from today as we move forward. Maybe we should just take a minute here, James, and make sure we could check our Jamboard. Can you bring that up so we can see what ideas are being posted there for future study sessions and see if we have a few additional ideas? Well done, everyone. I see lots of good ideas here. Let's see what else we might want to add. Can you make it a little bit bigger, James? I'm old and I really can't see it.
Sure. Trying to do that now. Dr. Sandy, did you want to say something? I think I saw your hand up.
You do see my hand up. I just wanted to make sure we have not received any requests for public comment. And I just want to be sure that if there is any public comment there, you need to send your name and affiliation into comments@ctc.ca.gov. I believe that's the correct address, so we can capture that and provide that opportunity. But we didn't see any comments, so we've allowed this discussion to continue into that time and space. We still have about 10 minutes in this meeting, so.
Great. So Mary, should we pause for a second and see if we have any public? I see a hand up.
I think Rhonda and Haiju will let us know. Oh, okay. I see there is a hand up.
Yes, it's a public comment, I believe.
For public comment, okay. So maybe we should just pause and take public comment now, Madam Chair?
Yes, we will now open for public comment.
Rhonda,
can the individual who has who did the virtual hand raise, you've been unmuted, I believe. We will need you to state your name and affiliation for the record if you'd like to make a public comment at this time.
She appears to be muted.
James, are you able to unmute that person?
I've asked her to unmute, and it looks like that she has dropped from the call. Oh, no, there she is.
I apologize. Because this individual didn't actually send an email to us, I'm not able to call or say the name to confirm that they actually do want to make public comment.
Okay. Well,
I have put in for a request for the individual to unmute and start video. That usually stays up for approximately 30 seconds.
all right. We'll wait. I believe we have our public comments. Welcome. Could
Please state your name and your
information?
affiliation for the record. Excuse me, Chair Sloan.
All right, thanks.
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hi, good morning. I'm a teacher. My name is Yalina Gamero. I've been teaching for 17 years. I'm part of the McFarland Unified School District. I was very interested to hear all the process about, teachers getting credentials and everything we struggle in an everyday life. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I made a list of my concerns. For example, teachers in the rural areas, qualified teachers with a master's degree, like my case, still struggling to complete all the requirements as a single subject credentialing teacher. And 17 years of experience on my side, which I feel like it's been a great experience for me, but at the same time, a little bit difficult to complete the requirements after I moved from another state in Florida to California, and actually needing to take all the requirements again, like a CSET that I passed, but still battling with CBEST, even though I have a master's in the States and I have a lot of experience. I do love my job. I feel I do possess the qualities like most of the teachers like me are struggling with real life situations, like, students with difficulties, depression, and many things in rural areas like me teaching at McFarland High School. I do really appreciate the job that you guys are doing, and I appreciate the time and the opportunity for me to speak about my concerns and needs. I'm also in the credentialing program trying to complete some of the requirements without grants or funds, basically doing from my own funds and tutoring in the afternoons also to try to complete all those requirements that I'm expected, even though I do possess a master's in Spanish. And I do need to prove that I'm qualified for that, completing all these examinations like math, reading, writing, and all these areas, even though they are not basically what I'm teaching. Thank you for the time again. I think what you're doing is awesome, trying to set up new goals and reestablishing all the process for everybody. And whatever you do, I think not only me, but my colleagues and friends struggling with this battle, like this, to be better every day, better human beings, and create and promote that in our environment nowadays with everything with COVID and reality. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment and for sharing your story. Are there additional public comments?
We have no additional public comments.
Okay, thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do we have additional anything, Amy, before we adjourn?
Yeah, we do have a wrap-up slide, and we did, so there are just two things on my mind, three things. Thank you, James. One is this quick evaluation we would really appreciate it if you gave us a little feedback on how this meeting was for you so that we can continue to improve our service as we work together in online platforms and have this opportunity to talk with you about our strategic planning for the commission. So if you do have a few minutes here, if you would not mind to go in and give us some of that feedback, we would appreciate it. You can do it now, or we will send this to you and you can do it after this meeting closes. We also just want to let you know what the next steps are. I think it's always important to leave a meeting understanding what we are going to do. And so we do have a next slide on that. And we did get a second there to look at the Jamboard, and we see lots of ideas there. And again, I encourage you, if you didn't get a chance to put your sticky note up, to just send us an email and let us know. We will add your thinking to today's work. But I will turn it back to Dr. Sandy now, our executive director. She will address this slide and let you know what our next steps are.
Thank you, Amy and James and staff for your support for this meeting. And commissioners, we really appreciate you taking the extra time outside of the rest of our meeting to do a deeper dive into the strategic plan. I can really appreciate your observations that well, across the board, but particularly about the deeper we look and the more wide our gaze is, the more overwhelming sometimes it seems. So taking the time that you've taken this morning to dig in and surface your issues and your core issues around the vision, the mission, the values, the strategic goals, and the priorities that really rise to the fore is greatly appreciated. So our task next is to take all of this feedback into a work session here with the staff to begin to shape a next iteration of a strategic plan for you, and to bring these items back to you as they fit in your agenda in the coming meetings, and continue to work toward finalizing and beginning to put in play some of the study sessions and conversations that you've surfaced on the Jamboard, et cetera. So this is informative for us and much appreciated as your staff. We look forward to bringing it back to you in ways that really capture the spirit and the content of your input and feedback today. So thank you.
All right, and then Mary, any other follow-up suggestions for next steps just today? We're going to end this session right now, right at 12 o'clock as we promised. And again, we thank all of you for joining us this morning in this important discussion.
So we'll turn it back to you, Chair Sloan, to officially recess the.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Amy, very much for facilitating our work today and for planning these activities. All right, I don't believe that we need a motion. I think this is an information action item. Do we need a motion of any sort?
We don't think so.
Okay, all right, good. Then with that, I will now recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session at 1:00 p.m. and the general session will reconvene at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Staff, before we take our lunch break, do you have any specific directions for commissioners to go into closed session?
Rhonda, I defer to you on this.
There is no specific direction, just log on at 1 o'clock. We will have the meeting ready.
All right. Thank you very much. And everyone, enjoy your break and your lunch, and we'll see you in an hour.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Same. See you tomorrow.
James, you can either end the meeting or you can turn it back to me so we can.
I will give you host privileges back. And I will exit the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
I'm going to end.